and welcome to another episode of Circular Insights. My name is Lijin, and I am your host today. So I'm very happy to be here with a friend called Xavier Wong. He's the Chief Marketing Officer of Sengong and also Fuyu Eco, a subsidiary of Sengong. Based in Shenzhen, China, Sengong produces and recycles PVA films at very low cost using its proprietary technology to enable recyclable, dissolvable, flexible packaging, more affordable and accessible to the market. Now, for those of you in the audience who's wondering what is this PVA films? Don't worry. We're going to have a conversation today to learn more about this technology and see how it's changing the world of packaging and the use of these sort of dilutable, dissolvable packaging, which is really interesting. So thank you very much, Xavier, for joining us. Now, prior to joining the company, Xavier was the partner at CM Venture Capital, having served as their chief marketing and comms officer prior. His work involved doing borderless fundraising, connecting and networking portfolio startup, brand building and guidance, ecosystem management, business matching, driving collaborative innovation, and supporting universal directives on decarbonization. All in all, Xavier helped to deliver sustainable tech and solutions that our world needs today. And he was also the Group Brand Communications Global and Public Relations Director of Huawei Technology, focusing on corporate reputation, cybersecurity, and innovation. Through his various positions, Xavier has also worked with the clients in the likes of Tencent China and Pernod Ricard China that handles brands like Jacob's Creek, Martell, as well as clients such as KFC China, Kraft Foods, Ferrero Rocher, etc., etc. So welcome, Xavier, to our podcast today.
Hi, Lijin. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'll be happy to share with you guys and the listeners what we have been developing over these few years. Just a quick note, we're actually known as Sengong, or Sengong New Material. So Sengong Keji is actually for domestic purposes. But on an international level, we are just known as Sengong New Material. So Sengong is the name of the company. Sen is, in Chinese, is forest, Gong is work. So basically work that's designed to actually operate in line with nature.
Wow. Yeah. That's really great to have the sort of background of how even the name came together, Xavier. And maybe on that note, it'd be great to share a little bit more about, what does Sengong actually produce? There may be some people who are unfamiliar with this term PVA film. So maybe we can start there.
Yeah, sure. Basically, if we simplify it, it really is just water-soluble, biodegradable, transparent packaging that's used in your daily laundry pods. And these are very commonplace these days. So we don't make the pods, but we make the plastic-like film that is made into those pods, which hold the liquid detergent inside that transparent pod. It's been gaining in popularity over the last 10 years. I think in the States, it was Tide pods that became very popular because it was so colorful and kids were starting to swallow them instead, which is not really not recommended because these are actually filled with concentrated cleaning solutions. And these days, it's been gaining a lot of popularity in Asia, and over in China, it's also gained massive popularity. Where the volume has been doubling year by year in the last few years. So we are making the material that makes this technology possible is called PVA, polyvinyl alcohol, or PVOH. It is actually not a new material. It's been around since I think 1920 something. So it's a century-old material. And it's been around for over 100 years, and it's been used in a lot of applications such as children's white glue, and it's because it's also biocompatible with the human body. It's also used in contact lens solutions and medical applications. So basically, it has no harm to the human biology, and it's also designed to biodegrade naturally under the right conditions into just water and carbon dioxide. That's the material that we're using to make those transparent plastic-like packaging that holds your laundry detergent in the laundry pots that you might be using today.
Right. So if this is not like such a old, but it's not a new material per se, as you say, it's been around for so long. So I guess the natural question that people would emerge is like, what's been stopping this material from actually being used more widely in these aspects that now Sengong is applying it to?
I think it's a question of whether companies want to spend time investigating how this material can be applied.
Mm,
And I think the first breakthrough came about a decade ago when someone realized, hey, we can turn this white glue paste into a film,
mm,
which can hold soap and it
mm.
doesn't dissolve. But then when I touch water, the film just dissolves instantly, and then the soap is released. We could do something about it. I mean, obviously, someone discovered that over a
Yeah.
decade ago, and then Tide Pods were born. So I think it's a question of whether companies want to look at old technologies or relook at some of the older material science products and see how they can reuse or improve them in this increasingly complex world that we live in today.
Mm.
And we're just taking that one step further with the material technology that we have right now. Our focus is right now, our core business focus is on detergent pot films. The films can be used for chemical pots, can be used for detergent pots, such as laundry pots, as most of us know, or even dishwashing pots, the ones that are put into dishwashers.
Definitely over here in the UK, it seems to be something that is becoming more popular for the postal type of detergents, or as you say, dishwasher tablets being sent through mail, in order to allow that to happen. It seems like all this is in that plastic-like film, which was really interesting. Initially, I think there were some people who were like getting confused. This is actually plastic, but what you explained there about how it actually can dissolve and biodegrade into carbon dioxide and water. I think that is a nice clarification for those out there who may have seen products like this but not familiar with it. So essentially, may I ask a bit further then, Xavier, what pain is it that Sengong actually comes in when you said you guys are helping to take the next step forward? What is that next step in terms of what is that barrier or that pain that you guys are have broken through now?
Okay, well, the barrier we're looking at is about the idea of sustainability that's claimed by many of these material science companies or these material brands
Mm,
or material makers, basically. Now, as I mentioned, our core business is really making detergent pot films,
mm,
and that's extremely profitable. So we are actually looking into extending these, creatively extending the use of this wonder material into other applications such as logistics or even agriculture. Now, the
oh,
core pain that we're trying to solve is the many convenient products that create invisible but massive environmental operational problems and so-called sustainable alternatives that don't actually scale. So the issue is the idea of sustainability. A lot of times, you say, oh, let's do sustainable packaging. Let's use sustainable plastics. But what are these things really? A lot of it is actually greenwash, I would think.
mm-hmm.
So if
As in
you
what it
use,
breaks down into, what do you
yeah,
mean?
that's right.
Mm,
So there are a few ways to claim sustainability, right? So you can use things like recycled plastic. And then, oh, look, this thing is made of recycled plastic. But the reality is, plastics can only be recycled 2 or 3 times. And by the end of that 2 or 3 times, where does it go? You either use it as landfill or you have to incinerate it. It doesn't decompose, it has to go
mm,
somewhere. So in terms of that, that's an issue. And also recycling plastics in general is extremely inefficient.
mm,
Historically, in the last 5 decades, The data has shown that there's only a 10% rate of recycling across the world. People just use and throw things away. So it's a habit that we want to so it's a human habit that doesn't going to change anytime soon.
Mm,
So the things like recycled plastics don't solve that problem. And then other things like bioplastics, say plastics made from seaweed or from corn. You have, I think, recent developments that have been used in packaging, such as PVA, TPLA, like the biodegradable straws that you're familiar with.
mm,
They are very expensive to produce. They require a lot of resources, and while they can biodegrade, it's the entire level of efficiency and accessibility is questionable. It's not like
mm,
it's something that the everyday person might be able to access. I mean, the issue with sustainability is that it can be expensive, it can be exclusive to certain target audiences only, and in some cases, for the much newer wonder materials, is extortive. So that's a problem. So none of all of these sustainable alternatives I just mentioned it's very difficult to scale unless
mm,
there's a lot of money put behind it. So in products like detergent pods, logistics packaging, and industrial films, companies are forced to choose between performance, cost, and sustainability. Traditional plastics perform well, but as I mentioned, they persist in the environment. And many bioplastics are expensive, fragile, or require special composting systems that cannot really exist at scale.
mm,
So, the issue. So what happens to recycled plastics at the end? I just remembered what our CTO taught us. At the end of its life, they become broom bristles. They become very
mm,
brittle. They become broom bristles. Um, and then bioplastics. Why do you waste food resources when they can be diverted to places where into areas where the food can be actually be used by more needy sources, like the starving populations in certain parts of our world, right? So our
mm,
solution here is to rethink the material itself. We engineer high performance, water soluble films for single dose usage that do three things reliably. One, they product the products during use. Two, they dissolve exactly where intended. And three, they biodegrade after use. So you can use it and forget about it because it basically disappears at the right time. It
mm,
biodegrades into water and CO2. And if you understand the nature of what PVA is, the molecular nature is just CH2, CH, and OH. It's basically carbon and water. So
mm,
that means, in that sense, when we produce a better quality water soluble films for single dose applications such as detergent pods, that means fewer leaks, longer shelf life, lower carbon emissions, and less plastic waste using a material that's already proven affordable and easily scalable.
mm.
So in terms of your question, in short, we're trying to fill the gap that between what works in the real world and what sustainability promises, but often fails to deliver.
I love how you like described it and a few golden nuggets that I really picked out from there. There's definitely that pain in terms of the affordability and the scalability of a lot of these sustainable solutions. A lot of people who see new tech coming forward, tend to think that, oh, now that the tech is available, it should actually change the planet like now. But that actually doesn't happen. There's a lot of economies in play, sort of and scaling is a very important part to bring things to sufficiently low cost where the switch becomes a no-brainer for business decisions. As you said, is it be it the manufacturers or people in agriculture or the clients at the end of the day who are using these laundry ports and as such, they actually need to also make decisions not just from the environmental or social impact perspective, but also from how their pockets. And if that is the case, what I'm seeing is that creative application of a material that's actually been here for so long can actually achieve that. And it's beautiful how you guys are filling in that particular gap while sort of taking into consideration that human habits are more or less very repeatable, not easily changed. And instead of trying to force people to change that habit, you're sort of saying, how do we ride with this? How do we actually work with that habit in order to enable this sustainability impact to still be achieved, the economic sort of pain to still be overcome, and everyone actually benefits from it at the same time. So that's really amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's about dealing with human habits. Habits are very hard to change. So you ask someone to recycle the cans or recycle the bottles. You're gonna need to encourage them with some kind of reward, right? So like in Singapore, I think coming in the next few months, they're starting to reward users with returning the cans or returning the bottles, plastic bottles with 5 cents or 10 cents built into the return, so that consumers are encouraged to return these materials for recycling. But
Mm.
that's all very inefficient, complex, expensive, requires a lot of government funding. It's just not efficient.
Mm, mm. So just now, David, you mentioned that of course the laundry pods is the core business, and that's very direct in terms of its application for household cleaning products. But you also mentioned things like industrial films and the application in packaging and agriculture. Do you think you would be able to give us a few more examples for our audience to just be able to understand like how it even fits in real life, these films?
Uh, yeah, yeah, of course. Just give me a minute. I just recalled something.
Oh,
Just
okay.
give me a minute. I'm sure you can edit this as we go along.
Definitely, no worries.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I just remembered I forgot to include something. Um, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Back to your question. Yeah. Back from a commercial break. So basically, when we talk about the possible applications, I mean, we've been exploring new applications of this water soluble, biodegradable, biocompatible material. Now, in the first place, for starters, right, PVA is what we call, it's not a persistent plastic. The other plastics that we talk of, the general ones that we are exposed to, whether it's a PVC or PE, and the soda
Mm,
bottles and so on, those are permanent plastics, and they end up becoming a microplastic. Yes, of course, there's also the argument that PVA becomes a microplastic, but it eventually biodegrades into water and CO2. That is what it ends up eventually as. So in terms of in terms of 1 minute, in terms of some applications that were expanding the use of this material into, we look at real life, right? We want to
mm,
see where our materials sit at the most critical point of many systems, such
mm,
as the moment where performance, convenience, and waste intersect. Our material is actually made in an extremely sustainable facility, and that's something that I can talk about later, because I believe that we do have the lowest carbon emission per ton of PVA produced in the entire industry.
wow.
Although we need to look for another third party other than the third party that we have in China, another third party outside of China to certify this. So take detergent pods, right? In real life, without films, without PVA films in general, manufacturers might struggle with. Manufacturers have to use traditional plastic containers with your liquid detergent or your powder detergent, and those plastic containers have to go somewhere, and they also end up having to be very expensive to transport because they're very heavy.
Mm,
PVA pots actually contain detergent that's highly concentrated, so it's much lighter. So in a sense, it helps to lower carbon emissions in the supply chain for starters,
mm,
right? And then in terms of if you talk about detergent pot films, there are also a lot of there are also quality issues if there are cheaper detergent pot films out there, because there's the issue of leaks, short shelf life, leftover residues, and all sorts of customer complaints. Um, our pods stay stable in storage for between 12 and 36 months, which is very, very long. PVA is hydrophilic, so it likes to absorb moisture and is
Mm,
affected by the environment around it. That's why when you get a box of laundry pods, it's in a container that keeps it away from the exposed environment.
mm,
Um, so basically, our pots have a much longer shelf life. They can be designed to dissolve cleaning at the right time in the wash, whether it's 10-degree water, 25-degree water, within 3 minutes, within 6 minutes. All of these specifications can be set within to the material and the environment in which it's supposed to be used in.
mm,
For consumers, this makes your laundry chore much simpler. You have no mess, you have no measuring, you don't have to worry about residue left in your drum. For manufacturers, it means faster production, fewer defects, less returns. And also, you've got a much longer lead time because our material has a much longer shelf life than most competitors out there.
mm,
In terms
mm,
of other applications, I mean, obviously, detergent pots is just one space, and we're talking about are there other creative uses of of this material? Yes, of course. We're also looking at logistics and packaging. We've developed a dual-sided tape made from this material. We call it EcoBondix. It's water activated. Basically, it can be used to seal paper or carton-based boxes. So what we've done is we've developed multi-life boxes with the EcoBondix or water-activated seals. And we also developed dual-use mailers with these water-soluble seals. Why is this important? Because the multi-life boxes come with zip tears that can be used for more than once. So if the box has 2 zip tears, you can use it twice. If the box has 3 zip tears, you can use it 3 times. Our dual life envelopes come with 2 flaps, so basically you can use envelopes at least twice before you dispose of it. All these helps to reduce uh, wastage.
mm.
The thing is, in the world that we live in today, nobody steps out to shop. Nobody steps out to, right? Everything's like online shopping, and a lot of the things we buy are delivered by boxes, and the boxes are sealed in plastic tape or a lot of staples. In terms of the boxes that we've developed, where we use only this PVA based EcoBondix water activated biodegradable tape, um, the boxes not only can be used at least twice. That means sometimes you want to do exchange or sometimes you want to do returns into the same box. But also at the end of its life, it can be easily recycled because the PVA washes off in water. There's no plastics left behind. So it's just a pure cardboard carton at the end of its life. This is
Wow.
important because when it comes to recycling, a lot of the problems are with contamination, and contamination is what makes recycling so difficult. You can't just throw uh, a, a a glass bottle that has a plastic cap attached to it to be recycled. When it arrives at a recycling center, these plastic caps have to be removed so that the glass bottle can be recycled, so that the glass from the glass bottles can be recycled properly.
Mm,
So, in terms of the logistics and packaging, by using a PVA based EcoBondix water soluble biodegradable tape, the boxes and the mailers at the end of their lifetime are just PVA on PVA based material on cardboard, which can be washed off in the recycling process so that you can have pure paper pulp or cardboard pulp that can be recycled. It's something that is being taken seriously by Chinese courier companies because there's a lot of pressure for Chinese courier companies here to have a lower carbon footprint because a lot of online shopping is what's contributing to the to the carbon emissions globally.
Mm,
And China's one of China's biggest courier companies, ZTO, is working with us to trial these boxes at this point. In terms of the mailers, in terms of the dual life mailers, the reason why we have them is because in China, they still send and receive documents with that requires handwritten signatures and stamps. So if the mailers can be used twice, this would save at least 100% carbon emissions in that sense.
mm.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then,
just as you were
yeah,
explaining that, actually, Xavier,
yeah.
what popped up in my mind was I don't know, I'm sure that people have seen that sort of reel or video whereby, these Japanese old aunties actually sit down and manually pull out all of these plastic tape that's stuck on the cardboard before sending the cardboard to the recycling center. I can only imagine the amount of volunteers, let's say, that has to, or even staff that has to do that in recycling centers where it may not necessarily be possible. So, for example, I've also seen similar situations where the volunteers at Tzu in my local town actually spend a lot of time actually just pulling out this plastic tape and all of that. And yet at the same time, there's so many times where when we're trying to return a product, there's always this thing of where do I find the box? Is it the right size box? Does it fit the box? And how do I actually seal it properly? I think what your solution actually brings forward there is making it that you have that convenience, you cut down all that unnecessary labor time that's spent on decontaminating, as you would say, or separating these different materials so that whatever recovery or recycling or return and reverse logistics actually becomes much more efficient. So that's quite amazing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I think it's important to build in what the end life cycle and the efficiency levels we expect into a product or material when we design it.
Mm,
On top of that, we've also evolved this material to dissolve in higher temperature water. So right now, your laundry pots, they just throw it in water, room temperature water, or even 5-degree water, it will dissolve, right?
mm.
So we have also developed a version of this which dissolves only in 100-degree water. And unless the world environment becomes very uninhabitable where there's 100 degrees all around us, this material would not exist, but it does. So we've created a similar material. We've created a very heavy duty version of this that we call Vortex.
Mm-hmm.
And it dissolves only in 100-degree water. And it's extremely resistant to weather, resistant to scuffs and scratches. So it's ideal as a logistics bag or even as a packaging material. So this one we're also trialing with ZTO on this because the how this material works is that we create logistics bags where they can be filled with tons of concrete or maybe hundreds of packages in one bag. And then these bags are used by courier companies where they're delivered back and forth like 10, 20, 30, 50 times a day until they're worn out. And when they're worn out, they just return the bags to us. We melt it down in 100-degree water and we make a new one for them. And this process can be repeated 50 plus times. And at the end of the material life cycle, let's just say the material is too old, it degrades it degrades and it cannot be made into a bag anymore. We take that material and use it as a soil enhancer, which we call resoil. The resoil enhancer is then used to be placed in deserts to stop deserts from expanding because it's hydrophilic. It loves water. It helps to retain water under the soil. It helps to maintain temperature. It helps maintain a regular temperature as well. So it's a wonderful application of a century-old material that I think many of us might have forgotten about.
Really
Yeah.
interesting that it connects back to the sort of natural environment. Because when you were saying about, even agricultural applications, one thing that when I go to the allotment and I see is that, even the compost or things like that, they're all in some form of plastic packaging. And across the allotment, you do see like maybe bits of various packaging being put on top, or some even partially already, so planted into the soil. And it does make me, wonder about, microplastics, how long this,
Mm.
how it's going to be applied here. I mean, we're eating the food here. Is it any better than what people are saying about, mass produced food versus, homegrown food and things like that. So when you talk about this coming back to that, eventually becoming that soil enhancer, that is actually able to work with, or biocompatible, as you use the term, with Mother Nature. It actually, is really interesting how the technical material suddenly becomes part of this biological cycle as well.
Yeah, yeah. So we have a couple of these material companies, conglomerates talking to us about developing them for food use or food related use. So we're also looking in the space to see how we can actually use PVA as a material to that can be in contact with food. The reality is, if you actually consume if PVA actually enters your body, it will not stay in your body. It'll just pass right through. Um, so we're trying to see how we can find a way where the material can be stable with food, because there's a lot of moisture moisture
Mm,
and oil, and there's a lot of different components in terms of the organic nature of food, which is something that the PVA material could possibly work with. One of the things that contribute a lot to the microplastics we talk about is, I think a lot of people may not be aware of, uh, in terms of real life application, is that when you open a bag of potato chips, you notice that the bag is silver on the inside, and then
mm,
outside is a very colorful design, right?
yeah.
There are actually three layers to that material. So
Oh.
that there's the outside layer material, and then there's the inside aluminum layer material. In
Mm-hmm.
between those two layers is a kind of adhesive or plastic based layer, which holds the outside and inside materials together. And that's where the microplastics come from. It's that layer in the middle that holds the colorful advertising outside together, that holds the colorful advertising outside with the silver foil on the inside. So one of the spaces we're looking at is if we could replace that plastic adhesive that holds these two layers together with PVA, it would greatly cut down microplastics in the environment, because once you have that, if you actually dunk this in water, the PVA will dissolve, and then the aluminum will be separated, and the advertising layer will also be separated from the aluminum. Then what happens is
Wow.
you only have two uh key materials that can be recycled. So
Yeah.
that's also a space we're looking at.
Wow, that is so exciting, because definitely that is something that people always say, how do we separate out these different materials that have been put together? And
Mm.
actually intentionally putting in that care to allow the two other materials to come back into pure form. I mean, irrespective of the microplastic part of it, that's already a big sort of step ahead. So that's really exciting and interesting. And even what you were sharing there about, these sort of like high durability type of bags that can be produced through the evolving of that material that you have. It's also very interesting because there's more and more interest, I guess, into the reuse sort of realm as well. To see how can we actually use back a lot of things instead of it being like a single use sort of disposal type of thing. So I think that's a really great sort of space to be filled, because if there is no technology that can enable reuse, or that can enable that combination of the technical material back into the natural world, and at the same time being safe for human consumption, I think it would be very difficult to implement a circular economy. So it's really great to see how technologies are evolving with a material that's actually not that new. And it's just about creative application. So that's really, really wow. So,
Yeah, yeah. So,
Xavier, maybe can I
go ahead.
ask, what actually started you guys on this journey then to solve this pain? Because as you said, it's not a new material, it's about creative application. So what actually got you all interested in filling up this gap?
Yeah, good question. I've always been about ideas, and I've always had a great interest in innovations. And before I was in this industry, I was actually an ad man. I was a creative person for 20 years. There was a lot of creativity involved in the job. I was from a copywriter, became a creative director, and so on and so forth for 20 years. And there was a lot of innovation in terms of communications, creativity. Later on, I was headhunted by Huawei to become the global creative director for 6 years, watching over the 170 markets around the world, dealing with a lot of different economies. Then after that, I joined CM Venture, the VC, as a partner, where I saw even more creative and innovative ideas.
Mm,
So to me, it's really about how creative or innovative you can be with what you have on hand. And when I saw that the VC had about 26 to 28 startups under them, Sengong was one of the more interesting ones, where it wasn't just China's biggest PVA film supplier dominating over 70% of the Chinese market, but it was also developing new ways to use this very safe, simple, biodegradable and biocompatible material. So
mm,
at some point, I hopped over to the portfolio company. I think TikTok CEO So Zhu did the same. He started in a Russian investment firm, which invested in ByteDance, which owns TikTok, and that's how he got to know them. The rest is history.
mm,
It's also because I saw the same contradiction everywhere in the journey, where industries wanted sustainability, but solutions offered were always expensive, fragile, or disconnected
mm,
from how the real world actually works. Uh, so earlier on, as I was working with manufacturing and supply chains, I realized that most environmental problems aren't caused by bad intentions. They're caused by materials that were never designed to scale, reuse, or with the end of life considered. Plastic
mm,
was chosen because it works. Many green alternatives failed and continue to fail because they didn't or did not economically viable.
mm,
So I think the focus on this very simple material, a century-old material that people already trust, that's used in glue, medical applications, and detergent pods. Um, but it's always been under-engineered. I believe that if we can treat PVA material as a high-performance material platform rather than a commodity, it could solve real problems at an industrial scale. The
mm,
biggest challenge is not invention, it was engineering discipline, achieving uniform thickness, long shelf life, ultra low defect rates for Sengong took years of trial and error. And,
mm,
and many of the production lines that we have in our company, in fact, all the production lines at our new facility, which will be launched in March this year, are actually self-developed and made from
mm,
scratch, different from the commodity machines that many other PVA filmmakers use, and are definitely certifiably one of the most sustainable factories for this material in the industry.
mm.
Because we actually use recycled steam sourced from a nearby power factory
Wow.
to provide the heat that's required to dry the PVA material into sheets. So
Mm,
I think the journey is really about one belief where sustainability only matters if it works and if it's economically viable and able to scale.
Mm, that is
Mhm.
so true. Yeah, the scaling part is definitely a huge challenge. I think even the IPCC back 2 years ago, when they launched the synthesis report for the IPCC report on climate change, mentioned that it's not that there isn't technology, it's not that there isn't money that's there, it's not that people don't have the know-how. It's actually pace and scale of change that is the main barrier. So it's amazing to actually see that you are actually working straight on that challenge of scaling sustainability products and materials forward. So what's next in terms of your view of this future? What would you like to see happen in the next few years if you had a magic wand?
Yeah, our long-term vision is to make sustainable. Sorry, let me try again. Yeah, so our long-term vision is to make sustainability a built-in property of materials, not a marketing choice or a behavioral pet burden. If I
Mm,
had a magic wand, I'd want the world to stop debating materials based on labels, plastic, bioplastic, recyclable, and instead focus on real-life system performance. Does it work at scale? Does it reduce waste? Does it leave no lasting trace? Is it affordable? So in the coming years, we want engineered PVA to replace disposable plastics wherever materials are meant to be temporary. So right now in this space, obviously that's detergent pods. Next, we're looking at logistics packaging, industrial protection films, and of course, the step after that will be environmental applications such as agriculture and reforestation. There are massive everyday use cases where material inefficiency drives emissions. We'd like to make the adoption frictionless. That means materials that run on existing production lines fit existing logistic systems and don't rely on idealistic consumer behavior or new infrastructure. So
mm.
ultimately, success looks like this: materials do their job, disappear responsibly, disappear responsibly, and nobody needs to think twice about sustainability because it's already designed in. That's the future we're building toward.
Wow. I really love the intention that's actually been put forward. And it really fits with the whole sort of circular economy thinking that if we were to actually put in a lot more care and intention right from the start, there's a lot that our consumption can actually bring in regenerating and restoring the world that we live in. So, on that note, if someone were to want to support what Sengong is pursuing now, who are you looking for, and where can they find you?
Sure. We like to look for people to collaborate with us to build solutions, not just talk about sustainability.
Mm,
We love to collaborate with brands and manufacturers in the consumer goods and industrial sectors who are ready to pilot materials that reduce waste and carbon without compromising performance or cost. Example, right now in China, we're collaborating. We're talking to Ant Group,
mm.
which is an arm of Alibaba. They actually are focused on part of the business is focused on environment, and part of that would be the stopping of desertification of China because China actually has a huge issue with growing deserts because there's so much land and and basically desert control is very challenging, and we're collaborating with them to with our PVA based soil enhancer called Resoil to see if it is something that can work. We're also traveling with ZTO on these dual or triple life boxes with sustainable PVA tape. I mean, these are just two examples. We're hoping to also talk to even more uh, uh, brands and makers that are looking for real life sustainable solutions. Second, we're also open to working with logistics operators, e-commerce platforms, and system integrators who want to move from single-use packaging to reuse first systems.
Mm.
And thirdly, we also welcome research partners, material scientists, and policymakers who care about practical, scalable decarbonization. Real impact happens when material systems and regulation move together. Obviously, support doesn't mean capital. We like to work as an innovative or creative partner even. We want to get real world pilots. We want to get feedback from production lines, and also honest problem solving results, basically.
Mm.
To look for us, listeners can always find us at our website, sengongtech.com. That's SCNGONGTECH.com. Or look for us on LinkedIn by searching Sengong or Sengong New Materials. You can also find us on YouTube. It's called Sengong Tech as well. And if you're curious about how materials can work better for the planet without asking people to change the way they live, let's connect.
Right. And all those links will be in our episode description below. So make sure you can go and check them out and learn more about this. I really love like how materials actually come sort of bring a different life to how our systems could be like if we understood what the material is and where it's best applied. Something that you really sort of highlighted in this particular podcast episode of where it's able to degrade at the point that you need it to degrade. And after degrading, it actually becomes biocompatible with our natural system and the human body as well. I think these are very interesting points when we start looking into the world of materials. It reminds me of another program that I was watching about circular materials. And they're saying that, in the natural world, the volume of material circulation is actually even much bigger than the human systems that we've created. Plastic is much smaller compared to the circulation of, let's say, cellulose or keratin, or chitin, sorry, in the natural world. So if we were to actually put in that bit more of understanding of what material is most suitable for what, and there's a way for us to actually access that in a very economical way, much like how the different organisms in the natural world are able to access chitin to produce their shells in a very economical way. It would really transform how we relook at these systems in our human sort of world. So really amazing to have discussed this with you, Xavier, in this podcast episode. Any last words that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, well, I guess if you have any ideas or if this podcast inspires you, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to have a chat with you, whether as a collaborator, a partner, or even an employee. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, Xavier. And thank you to all of you who stayed tuned into our episode today. My name is Lijin from Circular Business Association. We are an ecosystem builder that is working globally to solve the climate crisis. You can also find us at the link in the episode description, or our website, www.circularbusinessassociation.org. Until next time, take care and have a great week ahead. Goodbye.